first. But the bold prediction is that Le'Veon Bell is going to finish outside of the top 12 at the position. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Just like first glance, like what are your thoughts?
It's hard to think because he's been, consensus 1 or 2 for so many years. That it's hard to even imagine him outside the top 10, never mind, an RB1 you're saying he's not going to be a number 1 running back. It is tough to picture that. I can understand some of the hesitation. I mean, the Pittsburgh role was so invaluable, that offense. When as if this is your first time listening to me, I always emphasize the fantasy stock formula, and a big part of that is surrounding talent. It's one of those indicators we think creates value, and of course, that surrounding talent hit going from Pittsburgh, where the line was beastly, where you had Antonio Brown and Juju on the outside taking up defenders and all that, and now going to New York, where it's a lot more of a question mark. What is Sam Darnold going to be? What are those outside receivers going to be? That line is pretty damn atrocious, and they haven't really made too many additions to it. So I can see why he'd drop. I still, personally, I'm excited to hear why you have him outside your top 12, because I think he's going to see enough volume, and I think Sam Darnold will be good enough to keep the offense productive that he'll still be a top 7 or 8 guy. I think I have him as my RB8 right now. So I'm intrigued to see what you think will have him drop so far. But I do definitely have him knocked down from that top 1 or 2 pedestal he's been for so long. And I have some interesting stats about Adam Gase and different things I'd love to dive into, but I do want to hear your take first, because this is your bold prediction.
For sure.
Why are you so down on Le'Veon? Let's hear it.
All right, so the one thing that you stated starting off when I asked you, you said it's hard to imagine him outside of the top 12 just because he has been so dominant. Completely agree, man. Like, the guy's talented. That there's no question about that, where if the guy does get the workload, we know he's going to beast, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. That's kind of what the whole fantasy community is taking it as, where he's been dominant, so he will be dominant. That's not really true, because if you look at his time in Pittsburgh, right, not just the line, but also the volume that he got, Nick, from 2013 to 2017, he was seeing 19.8 touches per game, and he got 94 or more targets in 3 out of 5 years. And out of those 3 years, he actually got more than 100 targets. And he was averaging 6.4 targets a game in Pittsburgh, right? So that level of involvement, let's try to translate that and what that means for Gase's offense. So Gase with Miami, the last 3 years, Miami's ranked 18th, 32nd, 25th in terms of rushing volume. A lot of those running backs that were under him in Denver and in Miami, like Noshawn, C.J. Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, all those guys, nobody under Adam Gase's tutelage has passed the 19.8 touches per game that Le'Veon Bell had from 2013 to 2017. So if you go back to 2013, you look at Noshawn Moreno, 15 touches a game. He had 74 targets, which was, by the way, the highest target volume that any of Gase's running backs have ever had. 2014, C.J. Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, they kind of formed a committee. None of them really got too much work. I think the lead was like 11 point something touches per game there. But then you look at 2015 in Chicago, Matt Forte, 16.8 touches a game, and then Miami, Jay Ajayi, 17.3 touches a game in 2016. 2017, only through 7 games before Ajayi tore his ACL, was he getting 19.7 touches per game. So that's just under the 19.8. And, of course, that's over a 7-game period, so that's not a full season workload. And then 2018, obviously, we know what happened with Gore and Drake last year, where Gore was seeing only 11 touches a game. Drake actually had 73 targets last year. But, like, other factors combined into that, though, Nick, the guy hasn't played football. He hasn't played down in over a year and a half, right? Like you mentioned, this O-line is really questionable at best, especially the fact that they don't have a center, and you really need a good center to pull off that zone blocking scheme that Gase really loves to have. You really need an athletic center that can get to the second level and make blocks, ahead of Le'Veon Bell as he's running. And I don't think they have a guy that can do that right now for them. And then you just look at Gase's history of utilizing the committee when he has it available. And then you look at the roster now, where they have Elijah McGuire, Ty Montgomery, Trenton Cannon, Bilal Powell even is back. So combine that with like the clear content that Adam Gase has for Le'Veon Bell's contract. The GM's no longer there. Gase is kind of the guy pulling the strings now. You look at Le'Veon Bell's current ADP of round 1, pick 10, RB8. I don't think he's going to return that value, just given Gase's history and given the volume that his backs see.
Yeah, I would say the biggest counters to any of that is one, just none of those guys you mentioned, whether Moreno, Ajayi, any of those guys. Forte's great too, but even still, I don't know if any of those guys are on Le'Veon Bell's level. I mean, when he's on the field, there's nobody that can do the versatile things this guy does. He's probably, in my opinion, the best pass catching back in the league. Still a big, thick guy that can handle 20 plus touches. I mean, that's the Le'Veon Bell like workhorse. That's the pinnacle workhorse. And I mean, yeah, nobody else has matched his 19.8 touches per game, but this is a guy that's led the league in touches multiple years, and that's kind of his thing, his style of game. And I can't imagine a team shells out the amount of money that I get that the GM's gone now. And that's one of the things that has me most worried is like Gase has that comments about how I would never put that money on Bell and all those kind of weird tension type building things. I don't like that. That makes me nervous too. I get that. But I mean, to think about what some of those guys did, I get they didn't average the volume that Bell did, but they still had, I have the list of stats. I mean, Moreno, almost 1,600 total yards, 13 total TDs. Anderson, 1,200 total yards, 10 TDs and only 7 starts. Forte, 1,300 yards, 7 TDs in only 13 games. So you extrapolate that. It's a pretty good pace. Ajayi, 1,400 total yards, 8 TDs. Those are all still pretty damn good stat lines. I would like to know like where those actually ended up lining up in terms of, was it top 12 numbers? But those are pretty good numbers from much lesser talents, in my opinion, than Le'Veon Bell, who is that kind of pinnacle style workhorse. And Gase has, he has commented before, this offense is most dangerous when we have a 3-down back. You don't need to substitute. I don't like to take guys out. So yes, he's lately done committees with Gore and Drake, and it's kind of made us have this gross taste in our fantasy mouth, but he's never had that type of Le'Veon Bell, just what he has had, a guy that could be as versatile as Bell. He has given him, those touches were, yes, under the 19.8, but still 17, 18 touches a game, especially for a guy like Bell. He'd do a lot of damage with this. The one other thing I wanted to point out too about the line, an interesting stat I found on them. Yes, they were horrendous, 25th ranked in 2018, the 30th ranked in 2017. They've been awful for 2 straight years. But one run that they've actually been really strong at is the outside zone run. Their backs, I forget, this is Pro Football Focus I found this. Their backs averaged 2.07 yards before contact on outside zone runs, which was the best in the league. And obviously, if you're crafting your run game around Le'Veon Bell, nobody's better at a zone run than this guy with the patience and vision he brings to the table. So you hope Adam Gase recognizes that. They did bring in a beast league offensive guard in Kalisha Osmalley from the Raiders. So you hope they take a nice step forward and they kind of match what they do well to the strengths of the running back as well. And I think even if he doesn't get that 20-ish touches per game he was getting in Pittsburgh, he won't. And nobody does. That's such a valuable role, that Pittsburgh workhorse. I still think 17, 18 or so, this offense takes a decent step forward under Darnold. That'll be enough with a guy of Bell's talent to at least keep him inside my top 10 so far. So we'll see, but that's where I stand on him.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And, it's good that you brought up the outside zone run, because the outside zone run blocking scheme, it's a lot more difficult for an inexperienced center to pull off, a guy that's not as athletic. So I think that's the biggest concern. Like, people don't realize how important that center position is in that zone blocking scheme, especially if it's an outside zone blocking scheme.
Yeah.
And, like you had mentioned how, Drake really, Gase hasn't really had backs to utilize. I'd argue that Forte is pretty much where Le'Veon Bell was. And Forte, I think that year finished as the RB12 actually in Chicago under Gase in half PPR. But I think
was that in, do you mind if I ask, was that in points per game or was that in overall? Because I know he only played 13 games that year. So is that 12th in points per game or 12th like overall? Because that's pretty impressive in 13 games to finish as the RB12.
You're absolutely right. He did not finish as the RB12. He finished as the RB 17. Sorry,
it was 12 in points per game or something.
12
of that
and 12,
nature. Yeah,
12 in points per game.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So, listen, he can still be productive. I just think the value of, RB8 at the back of the first round, I don't think that's an appropriate. Like, for me, I wouldn't reach for Bell. I would personally want to grab him in like middle second, back second, and I know for a fact he's not falling that far just because of the name value.
Who are some guys you're looking at where Bell kind of goes that you'd take instead of him?
Great question. So around him, you have guys like Joe Mixon going right before him.
I'm with you there. Yep, check that. Yep. We're in agreement there.
Absolutely. James Conner's a little bit shaky to me just because, Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell, we don't know for a fact if he's going to have that locked and loaded workload. But a guy that we're going to talk about in just a second, one of your bold predictions.
Yeah,
I'll let the audience figure
Perfect,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll let the audience figure this out. But I'd be more than happy taking this next guy here.
Interesting, okay.